Okay, welcome everybody. This is Noel Lyons at Well Coach Co UK. I'd like to introduce the next teacher in the 3-day turnaround coaching program. It's Tom Terwilliger. I hope I pronounced that right, Tom. Do correct me later. And this session is plot your path, set your sail, unleashing the full magnificence of your body-mind. And in this call, you're going to learn why it's so important to both know and to believe in yourself. Tom has had at least 3 careers in his life, if not more, from being Mr. America, studio owner, and also best-selling author and international speaker. He's got so much experience, and a lot of it is because he just mastered the inner game. He's able to pull in, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, values, self-talk, etc., to just get things done. And that's why he loves to use that word magnificence. Because if you look at the root meaning in the dictionary, it just means to see things through and to get them done. And that's why he is the achievement mentor. And again, if you hang on throughout this call, you're going to feel both inspired and empowered just through spending some time with Tom. Welcome, Tom. Welcome to the call.
Oh, thank you so much, Noel. I appreciate being here and an opportunity to share whatever it is that I have to share with your listeners and with you. And, I just admire so much what you're doing and your desire to reach out and really kind of serve people. So, that's what really compelled me and drew me to you. So I should be thanking you. Thanks for the opportunity, my friend.
Awesome, Tom. And I said I should be wearing my Broncos top, really, shouldn't I, rather than 49ers? Because I've got cousins in Denver, and I just hope they're not watching, because they're all Broncos.
No, exactly. If they are, they're going to show up in the UK, man. You got problems coming, I got to tell you.
Got it. So, where should we start? I guess you've actually got a really interesting story, haven't you? And you probably get a little bit bored with saying it over and over again, but I feel it's really important. Why don't we sort of start there, Tom?
Well, absolutely. And again, for me, it's something that started, a long, long time ago with having learning challenges and disabilities, or at least what was categorized as disabilities early on in school. And those things, once a system identifies something that they can categorize, you get put into that category,
exactly.
And then you're kind of stuck with it.
Exactly.
For me, it was the learning challenges, and ultimately the decision that was made along the way with all this stuff going on in, early on, like in 4th, 5th, 6th grade or so, was that I was stupid.
Yep. And Tom, just let me interject there, because that's such a great point. They used to call me the daydreamer. And yet, as an entrepreneur, they tell you that people with imagination, these are the ones who sort of go forward in life. And yet, I had chalk dusters thrown at me, you're dreaming again, Lyons, blah, blah, blah. So, we take it as a bad thing, but it isn't always, is it? So let me...
Absolutely. And again, we do. We categorize ourselves. We develop these beliefs along the way. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. But there's always the opportunity to reframe those things. What you learn. For me, I've reframed a lot of what those experiences were back in my school days, including being put in front of the class wearing a dunce cap. And I don't know, today they would never do that kind of thing.
Wouldn't get away with it. Yeah.
Politically incorrect,
Yep.
But for me, because I was disruptive, I had learning challenges, the whole bit, they put me in front of the entire class wearing a dunce cap. I had to sit there the whole day. So, again, the conclusion, the decision I made that I was stupid. Today,
we've just cut the sound there for a second or so. You've frozen.
channeling brilliance and ideas and new things. So for me, I've reframed that. And also, standing in front of that classroom, for me, now it's about being in front of audiences, about being in front of groups and sharing what my experience is. But it goes back that far. And, once you make a disempowering decision about yourself and you develop that belief along the way, as Freud once said, we will always manifest into our lives what it is that we believe about ourselves or the world.
Yes.
So believe you're stupid, if you believe you're incapable and you're not really a part of normal society, you're going to wind up, and for me, I wound up manifesting that in maybe one of the worst possible ways. I went the way of the outlaw biker.
Yeah. Okay. We've just broken a game there, Tom. That's a couple of times now. I may need to just watch that. I'm not sure that you can hear me.
What they say is an outlaw biker. And that includes the drug abuse and the alcohol abuse and stolen motorcycles, and you name it. Everything that just kind of went along with it. And, there was one day that came along, though, because there was also some other deeply rooted beliefs along the way that I was better than that I could do more, I could achieve more than that. And a day came along where I kind of made that decision. Or that I like to say also the universe, God, had a hand in making that decision for me. And everything changed. I mean, just like that, it all changed. And then within the next 5 years, it was all different. And I can share the story if you like. It's in my book, 7 Rules of Achievement. I can certainly share the story of what was the catalyst for that change.
I think the breakthrough trigger, you know, is it's going to be different for everybody, isn't it? But again, people get so much value just by reading that book. So I think if people want to, they can continue with that. But let's talk about this whole idea of, you know, the body-mind, if you like, you know, body and mind being one, and this sort of idea of knowing, liking, and trusting your body. Because that was really, you know, where we were going to go with today. Because, you know, you can use your past, you can look back on it now, but since then, you've achieved so much, haven't you? And so much of it, as you alluded earlier, it comes back to what your expectations were, and you were able to grow those. And I hear you talk a lot about a leap of faith. This is now, you don't just take the next step, you're able to jump these days, aren't you? So, you know, talk us through what you've sort of learned since, because that's really what's key here, isn't it?
You got it, absolutely. I mean, the catalyst for me was once I left that lifestyle, I made that decision. As I said, it was a catalyst behind making the decision to move from that disempowering belief and the lifestyle that manifested as a result of that to doing something more, to believing something more, at least taking a risk, taking what I, like you say, as you say, has been called the leap of faith, you know? And for me, it was getting back into the gym. The first step was connecting with my body again. Because what I've learned since, and what I knew, what I was kind of finding out at that moment, I didn't know consciously, but I was finding out unconsciously, is that the body, every cell of the body is indeed, as Candace Pert wrote, is our unconscious mind. Yeah. So we hold in the cells of our physiology, the muscle, the heart, the lungs, the viscera, all those things, all those cells hold the same emotions, the same beliefs, the same patterns, the same chemicals of the emotions that are positive or negative. So for me, it was about rebuilding those cells and connecting with a huge part of not only myself, but my unconscious mind as well, so that I could continue to take that leap forward. So getting back in the gym was a huge catalyst in sort of honoring the part of me that is that empowering part, the strong part. Because early on as a teenager, I had some minor successes. In New York competitions, all as a teenager, but, you know, that became incongruent with that old belief that I was stupid, I wasn't good enough. So I recaptured some of that success by getting back in the gym and reconnecting with the body. And what I teach today, I call body rapport. A great guy. I love connecting what you're doing. I love how you're serving people. So we know, like, and trust each other. And you have to be able to do that with your body. And you do that through a variety of different ways. And certainly one of them is just to start to listen to your body. A lot of us don't. And we can talk about how the difference between those people who do nothing with their physiology and just allow it to deteriorate, and athletes who take it to the absolute extreme and really push their bodies to the very limit of what it's capable of, and how both those things may be playing a role in disconnecting from the rapport of the body, disconnecting from the know, like, and trust. So there's two different ends of those spectrums, but that's kind of what I learned along the way, and it's one of the things that we teach.
Yeah. So just to recap there, every emotion that we feel, it results in a chemical reaction throughout the body. And I think that's really important, because once you understand that, you learn the importance of controlling your emotions, and in turn to control your thoughts, which is critical in terms of your expectations.
Your feelings in any respect. I mean, in the process of manifestation, your beliefs lead to your thoughts. Your thoughts ultimately manifest into your feelings, because it's the words, it's the dialogue, it's the beliefs, the thoughts that we have that ultimately trigger those molecules, those chemicals of emotion that release something that's either a positive or a negative. And we know that if we're releasing a negative emotion in our body, as was once, I think it was Henry Ford that originally said it, whether we believe we can or we believe we can't, we're right.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from our inner dialogue and the emotions that spark from it.
Yep. Now, as a national champion bodybuilder for the States, 250 million people, I think you more than anybody know how to really sort of get in tune with your body. But, you know, like a simple exercise is just to hold the finger out just in front and just to focus on the tip of the finger, isn't it? To really, you know, really intensely to focus on it. And then if we actually did some tests, just that alone would increase the blood flow to the tip of the finger. That's how powerful that mind sort of body connection is. And there was an excellent book, wasn't there, called Touch Training, that I remember sort of buying, you know, like cupping for the shoulders. Because as people who experience trainers, we say, okay, work your delts straight away. That's what we do. But to someone who's not in tune with their body, they're sort of, they do this, but there's no delt.
Yes.
You know, they raise their shoulders, but there's no delt movement. And so, you know, one of the exercises is to cup it. Okay, feel the cup of my hand, and over time they learn to fire the delt, isn't there? Perhaps you could take us through some of those, because you more than anybody would know that. Just through doing what you did.
That's something that's so critical, at least for a lot of trainers. And a lot of trainers today have sort of shied away from the touch component, the physical contact component of training people. And whether that's because they've gotten lazy, or they're not sure of what they're doing, or because they're afraid of liability, I don't know. But all I know is what you're talking about in terms of the cupping the shoulder and showing someone, not what you're showing, but having them feel, gain the sensory perception of the physiology. And if you're working the pecs, it's great to have your trainer or even you. When I'm doing exercise, like a one-arm movement, first thing I do is I take my other hand and I put it along those insertion components of the pecs, and I literally kind of separate them and feel that contraction with my fingertips. So it's not just in the muscle directly. I can send energy, as you said, when we focus on that finger, when we focus on something. A great movie, not everybody enjoyed the movie, but I thought it was a fun movie. It was Kill Bill. And when the gal, our hero in the movie, is paralyzed from the waist or like from the neck down or waist down, she gets into this car and she has to learn. She has to be able to move. It is not a would, could, or should. It is a must. So she's got the leverage, and then she spends the next several hours. We don't know how long. It could be 24 hours. It could be more. That she spends just looking at and focusing on the movement of that toe, and she's sending energy directly to that area of the body. And along with that, if she's sending the positive energy and creating that chemical release that I can do this, I will do this, I have done this, as opposed to I can't do this, I'll never do this. So she really sent those messages, and it's just kind of an interesting Hollywood illustration of what we're talking about.
Fantastic. And so there is this idea that we can come very sort of in tune with our body, and like you said earlier, I use exercise for exactly that. When I feel out of balance, you know, just like overwhelmed, frustrated, whatever, I hit the bike, I go train, I go do whatever, and I come back, and afterwards I'm much more centered, and bang, I'm back again, you know, just creative. And, you know, I think you talk about this too, is it heart intelligence? There's actually a lot of neurons surrounding the heart, which in turn influence the brain, and, you know, they're one and the same pretty much, aren't they? Part of the same system?
You know, when we talk about feeling it, you know, I felt it in my heart. You know, you get your heart broken, literally. The heart is responsible for much of that chemical reaction. When you feel something in your gut, when you don't trust it, I feel it much. It just doesn't feel right in my gut. It's actually the viscera. It's actually the intestines that are providing those chemicals of emotion. And again, what is that? What is the unconscious mind if not a reaction and a release of different chemicals that sort of facilitate our actions or our inactions in many respects. The things that store our memory, store time. So much of that is stored in those cells of the body. You feel something in your heart, something positive, you either got to learn to trust it or not trust it. And again, that's the rapport. You know, if I knew someone and didn't know, like, and trust them, I don't care what they're telling me. They could be telling me something absolutely true, absolutely something that's dangerous. If I walk over that bridge, I'm going to die. But it's coming from them, and I don't trust them. I don't even really like that person, so I'm not going to listen. If you don't like, know, and trust your body, when your heart is telling you something, when your gut is telling you something, will you listen? Unlikely. In fact, you'll probably shut it down and not listen and do the opposite. And I talked a moment ago about how athletes, especially extreme athletes, high-level athletes, professional athletes who push their body to the brink every single day, in many respects, yeah, they're connected to their body physiologically, but emotionally and from an unconscious standpoint, they have disconnected rapport with their body. Because when their body's telling them, you need to stop, you need to rest, you're going to injure yourself, you're going to do whatever it is that's not really healthy for them, they say, screw you, and they push through it, right? We've done it. I've done it in the gym.
Yep.
I knew that last set of squats was going to kill me, but I did it anyway, you know? I knew racing down that mountain on my mountain bike was going to, it's not going to be out. My mind, my unconscious mind was telling me, slow down. I said, no. And I wound up over the bars and in the hospital as a result.
Yep.
So we can cut it off. Even as athletes, we can connect with our bodies, but disconnect from the rapport, the unconscious component of that.
As and when we need to. Great point. I used to do that a lot. I wasn't that talented, but I was very good with the mind games. So, so you talk a lot about the body being the unconscious mind, and it's true, isn't it? Because in communication, we actually read people 70% through their body language. So, like when we say we're reading their mind, we're really reading their sort of body. And you can. People walk by, their movements. You can pretty much tell. So, oh, they're not in a good mood today. I mean, perhaps elaborate a little bit on that, Tom. It's like,
oh, absolutely. In fact, you've studied this. I've studied this as well. When you really research,
because you're a speaker and you're fantastic in front of a group of people. So body language is.
Hear some thunder. We've got a massive thunderstorm going on.
Yeah, your cat's going crazy behind you.
You may hear some clap, man. It's going nuts out there.
Yeah, I remember the Rockies. It hits the floor where you are, doesn't it? So if you need to get off, just say.
But when you really research and you learn to understand the unconscious mind for yourself, and certainly as a coach to be able to coach others, because as a coach, what happens is a lot of times we'll hear people say one thing with their words, but their body is saying something entirely different. I mean, easily when you watch the patterns of the eyes, it's an uncontrollable, unconscious action. When we see someone say something, oh yeah, sure, man, I was there yesterday, and they're not telling the truth. The body is revealing the truth. We may not know exactly what the truth is, but we know what they're saying is not really what happened. So it's really fascinating when you watch the unconscious body actions. It reveals what the truth is.
Yeah. So for those people who find it hard to believe that all the cells have like a living memory, if you like, that's just another way of looking at it, saying, well, perhaps there is something here. So just like a reverse. Okay.
And the listening part. One of the things I wanted to talk about was. So how do we do that? How do we know? How do we listen to the body? What are the signs?
This is it. You've got like 3 critical stages, haven't you, to developing body rapport? Now that we've kind of talked around it, this is a good time to introduce that.
Absolutely. It's like, okay, so why do I listen? My body's telling me not to push out that last set. Really? Maybe not. Maybe you need to do that last set. Maybe it's the unconscious part of the mind. This is where it gets a little challenging, because maybe there's a part of the unconscious mind that I call the dragon that shows up whenever we're really ready to make some changes. We're ready to make some progress. We're ready to move forward in our life. And maybe for someone, that last set of squats represents just the level of muscle growth they're going to need to get to the level of their anticipated goal, right? So the unconscious mind shows up and says, no, don't do that. It wants you to quit. But if you really know your body, listen to your body, and it shows up in 3 different ways. It'll whisper, then it'll shout, and then it'll slap you in the face. And if you don't mind the expression, for us guys, I like to call it the kick in the balls. Because that's hurt. And you don't want to wait to get kicked in the balls or slapped in the face, for that matter. But most of us don't listen, or we're too busy to pay attention to the whisper. It's those times when we're pushing ourselves and we haven't eaten, and we're drinking too much caffeine, not enough water, and the body is whispering, you need water. You need to drink. You need to take a rest right now. You need to rest your eyes. You're hurting me. But we don't listen because we've got a job to do. We've got a deadline. We've got stuff to go. We've got distractions going on all around us. And that's just one example. There's many examples of how we don't listen to the whisper.
Yep.
The next level, we stop listening to and think about it, Noel. I mean, if you have a lover and your lover is whispering in your ear that they need something, there's something they require, there's a need that's not being met, and they want you to meet it, and it's easy to meet. It's just reaching out, holding their hand, bringing home some flowers, telling them that you love them, whatever it might be. That's the whisper. But if you don't listen to that, then they begin to get irritated. They begin to shout, right? Yeah. They begin to express it in a way that may be disruptive even to the relationship. Yeah. For the body, that shout may be high blood pressure. It may be the onset of diabetes. It may be a little arthritis. It may be heart palpitations. It may be elevated blood sugars, cholesterol levels. Those are the shouts that the body kind of communicates to us with. Yeah. At least physiologically, there's other unconscious components from an emotional standpoint, but physiologically, that's how it begins to shout at us. It says, listen, stop ignoring me. My blood pressure is up. I'm going to die. You've got to make some changes here. But we don't listen to that either in many cases. Very few people really listen to the shout.
Yeah.
You know, they'll get a message from their doctor. They'll get a message from their body. They want to pay attention to it, but then we get busy. We got to get in the car. We got to go somewhere. We got to do something. We got to work out. We can't miss a workout today, even though my knee is screaming, don't work out today. Let it rest. You've got to let this rest. Instead, you know what? I'm scheduled to, it's Wednesday. I got to get in. I got to train legs today, man. I don't have time to listen to my body, right?
Yep.
We ignore it. And what comes next? I mean, you know what comes next, man. It's the slap in the face, the kick in the balls, right? I mean, man, once you've been told you have high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, your knee hurts, it needs rest, your body needs more oxygen, it needs more nutrition, and you don't listen to those shouts, next thing you know, you have diabetes. Next thing you know, you've had a heart attack. Next thing you know, you've got to have back surgery. Next thing you know, your knee ligaments have to be replaced. Any number of things that could have been avoided.
And as an athlete, you can go into a detraining zone where you can start to go backwards, where each session gets progressively worse just because you haven't put enough rest into what you're doing and listen to your body. But that's a great metaphor with the relationship because quite often we say, what was all that about? That you think that the trigger was that trigger, but things have been building up for some time normally. And so you've used the same metaphor with the body, and it's so true. So that's a very clever one. I like that, Tom. It's good.
Oh man, we've all had. I mean, if you're in a relationship or have been in a relationship, that explosion that comes out of nowhere. It's like, what? I parked the car facing north instead of south. Why is that a reason to get all upset? Explode on me. Yeah. It was, hey, I've been whispering at you and I've been shouting at you for some time now. This is it. This is the explosion. This is the slap in the face. So we have to start to learn to listen to the body, listen to the whispers. I would say for your listeners right now, begin to think about how your body is already either whispering or shouting at you. The likelihood that it's been sending you a message of some kind that you've been ignoring or putting off is very likely. So I would say start to say, okay, where has it? It's not about listening from here on. Yes, you want to start to listen from here on. But also, what about the past messages? What about the message it sent you yesterday? How did it either shout or whisper in your ear yesterday that you can start to pay attention to right now? Because number one, that does two things. First, it begins to honor the physiology. You can maybe take action, a preemptive action. Just hydrate yourself. Eat a little healthier food. Cut back on that crap.
A lot of food cravings is really just hydration, isn't it? Thirst.
Absolutely.
But of course, people miss that signal and they go for the food triggers instead. So.
A lot of times we feel fatigued, right? Even you know this. I mean, it's like minor dehydration, which most of us, let's face it, most of us are living in, semi-dehydrated states on a chronic level.
Yep.
But when it drops below the tolerance level, then we feel this fatigue, this lethargy. And instead of going for a big, liter of water, what do? We reach for a caffeinated product. We reach for an energy drink.
Instant energy.
Coffee. Yep. Some sugar instead. I got to tell you, man, if you're really listening to your body, if you're in tune with your body, know, like, and trust it, have rapport with it, you'll know what you need. You know you need water. It's just you saying, I need a caffeinated drink, man, So you got to learn to trust it, live, and so for those people listening, I would say, bam, what's the message it's been giving you? Has it been shouting at you? If it has, man, you better take some action quickly and start to develop that rapport and start to develop that trust with your body. You can take action, but you'll also start the relationship building again. Just like in a relationship, the first thing to do when your partner has an explosion is let them rant, let them talk, and then communicate back to them that you understand. I get it. I apologized. Let me start listening from now on. I really, and that may be all it takes. So for us to get that rapport back, we need to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry I haven't been listening. From now on, I'm going to honor your messages, and I'm going to do it instantly so that you develop that rapport again. And when you do that, bam, you open the world up to all of a sudden, it's like, wow, all I have to do is listen to my own inner intuition. It will tell me what I need to do. I don't even need a trainer. I don't need a coach. I don't need a nutritionist. My body will tell me what I need to do.
Yeah, and some of the other signals are just like sleeping habits. Do you get to sleep within half an hour of hitting the pillow? Do you wake up early, or do you go through the deep REM stage? For the ladies, hair, skin, how is it? there's lots of signals, aren't there, that that if we are paying attention on a daily basis, that we can gain a much better balance.
Yeah, I mean, you really, boy, you hit it on the nose. There's so many different things, and I would suggest reading some of Candace Pert's work, who has the definitive, I mean, she's really the definitive researcher in this area. Your Body is Your Unconscious Mind is a great book. There's a lot of research data in there. It gets a little heavy in the data aspect, but at the same time, it's. I think Marianne Williamson also has written some great work on really listening to the body, listening to the communication, and being aware at any given moment of how it's communicating with you. It'll tell you what's right, what's wrong. But that's really critical because there's so many different things, so many little different messages that you can get, and everyone's different, by the way. Not everyone will be the same, in terms of symptoms and/or messages. So it's really important to start knowing, liking, and trusting your body, and that's one way to get back that rapport.
Okay, so we've got the 3 critical stages, which is, from a whisper to a shout. But, of course, there's a threshold. How do we know when to push and when not to push? Or to be or not to be, like Shakespeare, I guess, we...
To crush or not to crush, that is...
You stop quoting Macbeth.
It's really tough. Because many times what stops athletes or potentially great achievers is just simply that part of the unconscious mind that doesn't want change. In fact, it's deathly afraid of change. And if you're stepping out of your comfort zone in terms of your training levels and your eating levels and your sleeping levels, whatever it might be for you that broadens your ability to manifest your magnificence, then the unconscious mind, that's part of that deathly afraid component, that ego doesn't want anything to change, and it doesn't want anything to change because it's comfortable right where it is. Beliefs along the way that created the very blueprint that part of your ego wants to hold on to. It's more than comfortable with it. Why the freak should we change it? It's almost like an architect. Imagine, an architect writing up a blueprint, taking days, weeks, even months to write up a blueprint for a new home, a magnificent new home. And then he finally reveals the blueprint. The owner's like, wait a minute, I'm not sure I like this. How about if we change this? What? And the architect is like, what? No, I spent months putting these blueprints together. It can't work any other way. This is the way it's got to work. No. You want to change it? You find another freaking architect, period. That's the part of the ego that's deathly afraid of change. So to understand, to be able to recognize the difference between the fear-driven ego and the body that's telling, hey, you're about to injure me. I'm about to get hurt. In fact, I'm already injured. You need to rest it. Is a critical juncture. There's a really fine line in there for athletes to be able to recognize the difference between what's trying to stop you because you're about to grow, because you're about to experience something new and expand your comfort zone, or you're about to take a mad setback in your training because of injury. Really critical to distinct line in terms of how to really recognize the difference between those two.
Okay. It's breaking up a little bit there, Tom. I'll just sort of say that for now. Hopefully things will be fine. So, but I got most of that. So this is good.
If not, man, we'll do it again.
Because we're professional. Got it. So, in terms of like setting like wellness goals, because that's more for the athletes, isn't it? In terms of like, someone who's got a lot of wellness goals, who want, their stress, their energy, their sort of fitness, but there's a little bit of fear. How do we strengthen the faith? How do we develop faith that, because both you and I, we're possibly not the best people to teach this because we're just very gung-ho, lots of will, and we'll find a way type thing. So I'm just trying to sort of relate back to people, perhaps whose self-confidence is not so great, who need to develop that self-confidence, who want to take on bigger things. How do they break through their comfort zone? Perhaps you could, because you went to see the Joseph Campbell film recently, didn't you? You spoke about dragons earlier.
Yeah,
and about
that was on your recommendation. It's fantastic.
And finding the hero from within. So there would have been some great metaphors there, for breaking through the comfort zone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're all on the hero's journey. The only question is, are we willing to take the call? When that call comes in and says, you're more, here's an opportunity, here's a challenge. This is the hero's journey in terms of respect of, hey, you've been called upon to go and save the damsel in distress. And that damsel in distress may just be you. It may be the magnificent part of you that is screaming to come out, screaming to be seen, screaming to manifest itself. But will you take the call? Here it is. The phone's ringing. The opportunity is there. Most people, I have to tell you, most people never do. Most people, I mean, the classic saying, we live in quiet desperacy because we're not willing to step up as heroes, which we all are in many respects.
Yep.
So how do you find the courage? How do you find the inner strength to do that? I mean, there's several ways. Number one, there's a leap of faith. The leap of faith is the fastest way to get where you want to go. It's the fastest way to create change in your life. In fact, I've done a lot of research and a lot of study in this particular area. And after literally working with thousands of people myself personally and watching, observing, witnessing people take massive change or make massive change in their life, it comes from the experience of taking that leap of faith every time. Think about it. If you want something to change in your life, you could take the one step at a time process, certainly. But you have to take a leap of faith in your belief, in your actions. You know what I mean? You have to take a leap of faith in terms of understanding that the past doesn't equal the future. And you may be so locked in the fear around what happened in the past, what you experienced then, the pain, the loss, the discomfort, that moving forward you may encounter that again. So the leap of faith is just saying, you know what, if I encounter it again, I'll be able to handle it. I'm just going to move forward. So the way to create real change, and for anyone who wants to improve themselves from a fitness perspective, from a health perspective, you may have to take that leap of faith in your life. And the very first component is connecting with your body, is starting to listen to your body. You got to trust your body to carry you from that scary precipice. Because most of us we're standing on that precipice of change, looking out into the abyss, and we're deathly afraid of jumping because we don't know what's ahead of us. That's okay. It'll help to know what's ahead of you, but sometimes knowing that your body will carry you forward is all it takes to take the leap. Now, once you get there, once you've taken that leap, there are some combative components there, and the first one is to begin to believe in yourself. You got to deny. I had a belief long ago. I told you that I was stupid. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't part of it.
Okay, we've frozen a second, so...
Rooted belief. And when everything changed, Noel, everything changes. When I decided... Did you lose me?
Yep, you're coming back, though.
No?
You're coming back, Tom.
Okay.
Are
we breaking up quite a bit?
I think we're hanging in there, but,
okay.
Otherwise I would have stopped by now, but it's hard to say. This is modern technology.
So let me repeat that last sentence then.
Yeah.
For a long time, as I told you earlier on, I had this very disempowering belief that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't smart enough, that I was stupid.
Yeah, so challenge your beliefs, and there's exercises that you do with people when you do your live workshops. We should constantly be disputing what we're telling ourselves, so don't always listen to yourself is the moral of the story, yeah?
The entire consciousness movement is about consciously making decisions and not allowing the decisions or actions to be led just by those old blueprints, led by those old beliefs, those old patterns that don't serve us anymore. Yep. We wrote the blueprint. We created that blueprint when we were 4 years old, when we were 6 years old, when we were 8 years old. Yep. Does that still serve us today at 25, at 30, at 50? No.
Or they could have come. They could have come.
I made that conscious decision.
And they could have come from other people. We could have taken them on board, and those other people, who's to say they're right, any more right than we are? So there's lots of reasons to dispute your beliefs, isn't there? And I think the other side that I hear too, Tom, is that we all feel fear. That even as a competitive athlete, stepping up as Mr. America, stepping up as a triathlete, all the things that could go wrong. The feeling at the end of it is when it's all gone right, it's brilliant. When it goes wrong, it can go wrong. A lot of time, it's not that we don't feel it, we learn to manage it. And I think that's something else that you're going to be the master at.
And I think the bottom line there is you can make a decision like I did just to change that belief, and which not, by the way, that's not an easy thing to do. We're invested in that belief. Have you ever been in an argument with someone who you knew they were wrong? They've got the losing side. It's a bad argument for them. They will fight to the death to back up their belief or their opinion.
Yep.
You have to find a back door to get in to help them change. So changing a belief just as a conscious desire to do so is very tough to do, but it can be done. I did it. I've seen thousands of people do it. It can be done. And once you change that belief and you see the thing, you can't just change the belief. You've got to act in congruence with a new belief, because once you change a belief, I refuse to believe I am stupid. I refuse to believe that anymore. We have to fill that void. We create a void. You've got to fill it with something else. Okay, what do I choose to believe then? Do I choose to believe I'm a genius? Do I choose to believe I'm above average? That I'm smart? What is it? I filled that void with whatever it was for me that I knew was going to serve me. And as a result, you have to begin to act in congruence with that new belief. And then what happens is, I call it the do, then believe model. I mean, for you, I know you do triathlons, right?
Sure.
You know?
Well, I used to, but I'm still trying.
Maybe the first time, before you even ran or did your first triathlon, maybe there was a belief there, oh my God, I can't do that. That's crazy, man. In the run, the swim, the bike, I can't. Maybe there was a belief around there, or just a subtle belief that I can't do that. And then you started to train for it. You change the belief that I'm going to at least try. You start training for it. You start training a little bit more. You do your first one, and all of a sudden the belief changes. Yep. Wait a minute. I can do this.
Yeah. It was an old girlfriend that told me I could never make the GB team. And I was like, okay, right. I think I can. So it's amazing what can sort of spur us into action, isn't it? Because, I came from a running background. I had to learn to bike. I had to learn to swim. It took a few years, but eventually I got there. But, it's, and talking about, fear, ended up at the World Champs. I'm the last guy out on the swim, and you've got to live with that, but you've also got the confidence knowing that you're going to come back on the bike and you're going to come back on the run.
Here's the critic. It wasn't just, hey, you know what, I had to learn how to swim. I had to do it. Somewhere along the line, you started to believe, and you may not even consciously be aware of when that happened, you started to believe that you're a swimmer, that you're more than capable of doing what you're doing. So for someone who is been trapped for years in a body that hasn't been healthy, that they haven't been honoring, that is unfit, and all of a sudden they start to get this conscious idea that I got to get in shape, I want to get in shape, I want to look better, I want to feel better, but they still have this old belief that that's not who they are. The first step is to take action. You got to step out the door. You got to get into the gym. You got to go around the block. You got to get a walk in. You got to clean out the refrigerator. Take action. See, great achievers, great successes in life, the only difference between people that succeed and people that are not as successful or literally fail all the time is that great achievers feel the fear and they take action anyway. So you may feel the fear. You may feel the doubt. You may still have that lingering old belief and that old little voice that says, you can't do this. You're never going to be in shape. Who the hell are you kidding? Really? Well, I'm going to clean out my refrigerator anyway. I'm going to get into the gym anyway. And then before you know it, the belief starts to change and you start to become the fit person. And your actions will become easier and easier and easier as a result. So that's really the first step, man. Decide on the new belief. Decide what you're no longer going to buy into and begin to take congruent action until that belief takes hold and becomes the new belief.
And that's a great point, because lots of people, they say, but I really want this and I have all the desire, but it's not happening. And so you spoke about the void or the gap. You've got to be able to see yourself where you want to be. Then you've got to step back to where you are now. And it's the gap between the two. That's the tension, if you like. That's what drives you forward. That's what gives you the momentum.
Yes, absolutely. And it's that leap. I mean, let's face it. There's the gap, right?
There's the leap. It's the leap. You got it.
Where you want to be. And you can take those actions. A do believe model is one way to do it. Absolutely. We talked about the importance and the power behind that. The other one is just that giant leap of faith. I'm leaving this all behind. I'm leaving that relationship that disempowers me. I'm leaving that job that just isn't serving me and making me feel weak and making me feel small. I'm done with it. And you take that giant leap of faith. That's the big gap. It's the jump. And now, by the way, not everybody jumps and makes it to the side, makes it to exactly where they want to be. But I will tell you this, that no matter where you land in the process of that leap of faith, you'll never go back to that old path. Never go back to those. You'll always be further along, just as a result of making the decision to take the freaking leap. That's empowering. That's strengthening. We talked about willpower earlier. we have tremendous will because this is what we do,
Yep.
We've developed the strength of that will.
Yep.
But if you decide to take that leap of faith and just ignore the fears, the doubts, and the uncertainties, you'll have strength in your will and will never be the same person again. Even if you don't make it all the way to the goal and the objective, it doesn't matter. You'll ultimately claw your way up to that goal, that objective, but you'll never go back. You'll always be stronger as a result of making that decision.
Yeah.
But if you don't make the decision, if you let the fear stop you, if you let the doubts keep you shrouded in that fear and not take that leap, instead say, wait a minute, now's not the right time. Maybe later. And you back away. This isn't just about not stepping forward anymore. You've now taken a step backwards. You're now weaker. You're now more vulnerable. You're now less likely to take that leap of faith the next time, or even that first step. So when you're called upon, when you get that call, that hero's journey is calling you saying, I'm more than this. Save me, rescue me, help me manifest who I really am. If you don't answer that call, if you don't take action, whether it's one step or a giant leap, you're weakening your ability to ever make it happen.
And that's the reverse of this, isn't it, Tom? That if you don't take the action, if you don't take the leap, literally you're not working that sort of mental muscle, if you like, and it just atrophies. And it's like, life is moving forwards anyway. Look at the technology we're using today compared to what we had before. Life's going forwards. If you're staying where you are, everything is just going to, problems are just going to get bigger and bigger. There's a saying, isn't it, that life's going to draft you anyway, so you might as well go with it. And you and I
are going to anyway.
And you and I are only where we are.
I first started training, and I was told by someone that it's going to take 10 years before you can become Mr. America. I was like, what? And then I started to realize, 10 years is going to pass anyway. I'm going to be 10 years older anyway. As it turns out, it only took me 5 years. But that 10 years was going to pass anyway. So what was I going to do? Just sit there still? Or was I going to work towards a goal, work towards an objective? As you say, man, time, age, technology, everything is moving forward. If we're not moving forward, we're dying. Like everything in the universe, man. If it's not growing, it's dying. Period.
Yep. And I think Arnie said it best when he became bodybuilding champion. He said, "Now I can do anything." I'm sure you had the same feeling when you became like Mr. America.
And that ain't that's not a fun subject to talk about, but it's the truth. And sometimes we need to in the face of people,
Okay.
Then have your own conscious mind, your own body kick you. So let's take some action, man.
Right, okay. So let's recap some of the points and some of the points we promised. We spoke about knowing, liking, and trusting your body. And that's really where the self-confidence comes from, isn't it? To be able to take that leap.
Let's face it, if you're moving forward with a partner you don't trust, how much confidence do you have? If you're moving with a partner you trust, know, and like, the confidence increases. You can, hey, I think I can handle this. I think I can do this on a daily basis. I have the energy to at least contemplate something bigger in my life, more wealth, more happiness, more stuff. If you don't have the energy, if you're suffering from poor energy and a lack of vitality every single day, you can't even dream of a bigger thing because it's not going to happen. You barely have the energy to make through the day today, right? So you got to know, like, and trust your body first.
Essential. And then we spoke about your body being the unconscious mind.
Indeed.
And here's where there's so much intelligence that, it doesn't forget a thing. Just listen to it. We forget. Our body doesn't. It's probably the best way to look at it, yeah?
That's a good point. We didn't even talk about that. We'll forget. Consciously, we forget certain things, but the body will always remind us. Our unconscious mind will always remind us. In fact, that's part of that ego we talked about a little bit, which was, and again, the ego is nothing more than a creation of our own unconscious mind. But it'll tell us, it'll remind us, hey, remember the last time you went up and talked to a girl and you thought you were going to, you thought she was your life mate, right?
Yep.
Remember how that hurt when you got rejected? You don't want to do that again. So the body remembers. You may forget, but the body remembers. You have to learn how to recognize and consciously make decisions, not based on those old blueprints, but based on your current desires and your current decisions and your current beliefs.
And then we spoke about body rapport and your 3 critical stages.
Yeah, of course, the body rapport, of course, is the know, like, and trust. I mean, that's what rapport is about, but it's to listen. If you're not listening to your body, then what are you doing? You're ignoring it. And, like a lover we talked about, how long can a lover go being ignored before it gets really upset and starts screaming at you and or slaps you in the face, right? So you got to listen to the whispers. You got to really listen and take action when you're starting to get those shouts. And if you've already gotten the kick in the balls or the slap in the face, well, you know what? You may have an opportunity to take some action and make some radical changes, but you got to do it right now, man. Right now.
Okay, and then we spoke about to push or not to push.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the challenges all athletes face along the way, because there are guys that are listening to, women that are listening to this right now that are hardcore athletes, man. And if you're just pushing your body, I got to tell you, for me, Noel, one of the reasons I excelled early on in my bodybuilding career was because of that rapport, that early rapport with the body, because I knew when to listen. I was able to avoid injuries, setbacks. And a lot of the guys that were better than me, I mean, Long Island was wrought with these great bodybuilders at the time, and many of them were much better than me. I had a head start on me big time. But every time I turned around, they had a shoulder injury or a knee injury or a back injury. Yep. Why? Because they were pushing their bodies beyond. Now, it's okay to push it to the brink. But when you push it beyond the brink because you're not listening to it, you're not in communication with it, you don't trust it, that's when you wind up with problems. You got to start to listen to the body. Pull back when you need rest and recovery, man. It's a critical component in the growth factor, period.
Yeah. So that's really peak performance, isn't it? That knowing that you're sitting on the edge of your limits, on the edge of your comfort zone, and that's by being in total rapport with your body, your thoughts, and your emotions.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, I know you're going to be talking, if you haven't already spoken, with John Mollenhauer, Jam, a good friend of both of ours. Yeah. And Jam talks about that in terms of performance lifestyles.
Yeah.
You know, we tend to burn ourselves out, man. We have to know when to listen and when to take those breaks. In fact, even pencil them in, man. Know when that break's coming up, and know when your body is going into, as he calls it, energy debt.
Yeah.
So that's really important. I know he's going to share some great stuff on that.
Yeah. And so one that we didn't really touch too much on is if we lose the trust, if we lose the rapport with the body, how do we get it back?
Well, the first thing is to identify that you have lost it, and it's relatively easy to do. As a matter of fact, we can look around. I know in the UK, certainly. I know here in the United States, particularly certain regions of the United States, we can look around and see where people have really lost rapport with their bodies. They're eating junk food. They're 20, 30, 40, 100, 150 pounds overweight. They don't exercise at all. They don't move their body. We know that they've lost rapport with their bodies. And most people that have lost rapport with their body are also, it's the rare few that are successful in other areas of their life. Most aren't necessarily as successful as they'd like to be in their relationship, in their finances, in their businesses, in their jobs, because of that lack of rapport with a critical component of who you are, what makes you the being that you are right now. Now, we're spiritual beings in a human body, but as long as we have this freaking vehicle, as long as we're driving a car, we better maintain it and maintain some rapport with that. So how do you get it back? You get it back first by honoring the messages that it's giving you. If you're 100 pounds overweight, come on. You know what messages your body's giving you. It's showing up every single day. You're just not listening. You're ignoring it. And that level of obesity is the slap in the face. What's coming next, you don't want to experience. So how do you get it back? You get it back by first making a decision. You know what? This is an extremely important component of who I am. Not only from a conscious physical standpoint, but from an unconscious standpoint. If I'm feeling negative emotions, if I'm feeling disempowered, guess what? A lot of that's coming from what you're doing to your body and the cells of your body. You need to reawaken them. You need to bring out the positive energy, release the endorphins. So you need to start making a decision right now that you're going to honor that and create that rapport. That's the objective. That's the goal. That's number one. And the next thing is to start listening to it. Start to develop that connection where you listen to your body. And by the way, listen on one small thing. I need more water. Drink more water. As soon as this says, wow, you're listening to me again, it will start to send you other messages. You start to take action on those, and before you know it, you'll start a communication back and forth with your body, perhaps like you've never had before in your life.
Fantastic. Tom, in the time we've had, it's just not possible to tap into all your pearls of knowledge, wisdom, and even the exercises that you take people through. So I know you've got like your book, your #1 bestseller, 7 Rules of Achievement. There's like an audio to accompany that you're giving away today?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is. And what I'd love to offer to your listeners and for you, I mean, it's a great program. We do sell it online, but I'd love to give it to your listeners. And what it is, it's the abridged version of our 7 Rules of Achievement training. The book takes you through these steps of what are the rules. These are natural rules of achievement that all great achievers, whether consciously or unconsciously, follow in order to achieve greatness, to manifest their magnificence. And if you're not following those rules, or you're inadvertently breaking the rules because you don't know what they are per se, then you can stop wondering why you're not where you want to be, or you're not moving fast enough. So the audio that I'd like to share with you takes you through, it's the synopsis. It's the rules, the exercises, boom. An hour and a half long audio program, no anecdotals, very few stories, right to the meat and potatoes of it. So I'd love to share that. Would you mind if I gave out that URL?
Sure, or I can put it on Well Coach, co.uk, and then /tt.html.
Perfect. Why don't we do that? So all the listeners can go right there to your site and get that audio, and I hope you enjoy it.
And if they want more, Tom, where do they go then? Because once you start to experience this, how powerful is it just to be able to, whatever you go after, just to achieve it? Is that not what most men want? So,
ultimately, Noel, and you know this too. I mean, ultimately, it's not about the stuff, and it's not just about achievement. We don't define ourselves by what we achieve. But what we do is our achievements define our desire. It really, as human beings, we have a desire to create more, to give more, to share more, to really help others in many respects. Yep. And by creating achievement in our lives, we're able to do that by, number one, inspiring others to do more, and creating the abundance, perhaps the financial abundance, the time, the freedom abundance, to be able to really step out of what we're locked into most of the time and really help and reach others. So this is one of the things that I teach, and this is one of the things I get the greatest joy from teaching. Part of that process is indeed the leap of faith, because there is a process to taking that leap of faith, a 4-step process, and I teach that in what I call my Experience the Leap program, and that's a coaching that's a little down the road. But people can get more information about me, about what I do, about my book, at either 7rulesofachievement.com, that's the numerical 7rulesofachievement.com, or Tom Terwilliger, it's Terwilliger.com, TomTerwilliger.com.
And there's even the occasional retreat in the fantastic Rockies, like Steamboat Springs, was it last time?
Yeah.
Which is...
Join us, Dave.
I'd love to. I love that place, Tom. I love that place.
I know. In fact, you have relatives or friends here in Broomfield, don't you?
Exactly. So I know it well, and it's been over long. So hopefully it won't be too long before I'm next out there. And we even spoke. A good friend of ours, Scott Colby, who we can mention too, runs some great adventure sort of trips up there in the Rockies. So again, there is that. It's a fantastic place, isn't it? Just all round for anybody who's like a goal achiever and also sporty, and dare I say, even hippies. Everyone just like coexists because it's that sort of place, isn't it? So,
if you're a hippie, man, you have to be in Boulder or one of the areas around Boulder. It's such a blessing. In fact, it's when I first moved from New York. I'm a New Yorker. Maybe you can tell by the accent. You know what I'm saying? But when I first moved down here, God, it was almost 20 years ago. I landed here in Westminster, is where I kind of settled, you might say, but
it's grown. Denver has just expanded, hasn't it, too? So Westminster today.
It was magnificent. We were shooting a segment for Muscle Sport USA, the TV show I did for Fox Sports Net for years.
Yep.
And I just fell in love with it, man. The outdoors, the people, the mountains, the energy, and that's one of the reasons we had our retreat here. Not because it's my backyard, but because of the energy. When you connect with nature, it allows you to open up and expand your mind and your body in such a way that you don't get when you're trapped in a box, period. Yep. So that's one of the reasons, and I hope you'll join us next year, man.
Fantastic. So, Tom, brilliant speaking to you. How should we finish today?
Well, I guess we should probably finish with just a maybe one last thing I'd like to share with your viewers, and that is, no matter where you are in life right now, whether we're physically, emotionally, financially, it doesn't really matter. Because remember, I said a moment ago, the past doesn't equal the future. You make a decision right now to change a belief, to change a pattern, reconnect with your body, and just start taking congruent action on that. Anything and everything is possible. The body that you want, it's right there. It's 6 months down the road, maybe less. The finances you want, boom. It's a decision or two down the road. It's an action or two down the road. There it is. It's possible. Anything is possible for you. You just have to make a decision to take the action to make it happen.
Tom, brilliant. Thanks.
My pleasure, buddy. No, it's always a pleasure, man. I love you, buddy. I love what you're doing, and thank you so much again for the opportunity to be able to share and to be myself, to be my authentic self with your listeners.
And I really appreciate your time, Tom, because I just know how busy you are. So thanks a bundle, yeah? Cheers.
And by the way, sorry about not having a nice button-up shirt on, but I just came from the gym. I sat down, came right from the gym, sat down, and we got to talking. So apologize for my.
We're the real deal. This is the age of authenticity, is it not? This is who we are. So.
Hey, man.
Cool.
All
Cheers,
right,
cheers, Tom.